$180. That's what a pair of Air Jordans runs you. $180 for some leather, foam, rubber, and a little stitch swoosh on the side. And here's the number you've probably heard, the one that launched 1,000 angry comment threads. That shoe costs about $16 to actually make. 16! So the obvious reaction is, wow, Nike is pocketing $164 per pair. Except that's not what happens, and the truth is honestly more interesting. Because the worker who physically built that shoe didn't get $164, he got about $2.50. So where did the rest of your money go? We are going to follow your $180 through every single hand that touches it. Pin your receipt to the top of the screen because we're going to dock every cut as it happens. Everyone takes a cut. Let's find out who gets yours. Let's start with the only part of this that's an actual physical shoe. A teardown of an Air Jordan adds it up like this. About $11 in materials, the leather or synthetic upper, the rubber outsole, the foam midsole, the laces, the little bits of plastic. Then the labor to assemble it, roughly $2.50. Then factory overhead and the factory's own small profit, another $2.50 or so. Add it together and you get a factory cost of about $16. That's the whole thing. The complete, finished shoe, boxed and ready to ship, costs about $16. Hold that number because it is the single most important one in this whole video. Out of the $180 you're about to pay, $16 is the shoe. Everything else, every other dollar, is something other than the thing on your feet. Now look closer at that $16, because the most uncomfortable number is hiding inside it. Of the roughly $2.50 that goes to labor, that's what the people who actually built your shoe split. Nike does not own the factories. Your Jordans are made by contract manufacturers, companies like Chen and Feng in Vietnam, Indonesia, and China, where footwear wages run somewhere between 25 cents and $1 an hour. So the human being who cut, glued, stitched, and pressed your $180 shoe earned about $2.50 for it. That's 1.5% of what you paid. The person without whom the shoe does not exist takes the single smallest cut in the entire chain, smaller than the shipping, smaller than the cardboard marketing budget, smaller than the sales tax in some states. Remember that number too, $2.50. Back up the chain to where the shoe begins, the materials. That $11 buys leather and synthetic panels, rubber for the sole, foam for the cushioning, textile for the lining, laces, glue, and the box it all ships in. These come from a web of suppliers, tanneries, chemical plants, textile mills, feeding into the assembly factory. And this is genuinely most of what your shoe physically is, $11 of stuff, more than 4 times what the worker who shaped it into a shoe was paid. Think about that for a second. The raw materials sitting in a pile cost more than the skilled human labor that turned them into the thing you actually wanted. That's the economics of outsourced manufacturing in one line. The materials have a global market price. The labor in those countries does not. Now the shoe has to cross an ocean. From the factory in Asia, your Jordans get packed into a shipping container, loaded onto a vessel, and sailed to a port in the United States. The ocean freight itself is shockingly cheap per pair, about $1. But then they hit the border, and the United States charges some of the highest import duties in the entire tax code on footwear. Shoes can be tariffed at rates that dwarf what you'd pay on, say, a laptop. Bundle the freight and the duty together and call it about $8 a pair. So now your shoe has landed on American soil at a total cost of around $24, the $16 shoe plus $8 to move it and clear customs. And it still hasn't been marketed, designed on paper, marked up, or sold. We're at $24 and you're going to pay $180. Here's where the price stops being about the shoe at all. Because what you're really buying is the swoosh, and the swoosh is expensive to maintain. Nike spends an enormous amount on what its own filings call demand creation, advertising, sponsorships, and the athletes. On a pair like this, roughly $25 goes to marketing and endorsements. And for Air Jordan specifically, a slice of every single pair flows back to Michael Jordan himself as a royalty, a deal reported to pay him over $150 million a year, decades after his last NBA game. Sit with the comparison. Nike spends about 10 times more making you want the shoe than it pays the person who made the shoe. $25 to build the myth, $250 to build the product. That is not an accident or a scandal. It is the entire business model. You are not buying a shoe. You are buying the feeling the shoe is supposed to give you. And that feeling has a marketing budget.
On top of marketing, Nike has the rest of its operation to pay for, and eventually a profit to make. Designers, the headquarters in Oregon, research and development, logistics, retail technology, corporate salaries, and the company's own margin. Call it about $41 more on this pair. Add that to the marketing, the landed cost, and you arrive at Nike's wholesale price. The shoe leaves Nike's hands at roughly $90. $90. That's already more than 5 times what the factory was paid to make it. But here is the correction to every angry comment you've ever read. That $90 is not $90 a profit. Nike's actual company-wide net margin from its latest annual report is only about 7%. Net income of roughly $3 billion on around $46 billion in revenue. The gross margin looks huge. The profit that survives marketing, salaries, and everything else is a thin slice. The markup is real, the profit is modest. The difference is the most misunderstood thing about this entire industry.
And we're still not done, because Nike sold the shoe for $90, not $180. Someone has to take it the rest of the way, and that someone is the retailer. The store that sells you the shoe, a Foot Locker, a mall sneaker shop, even Nike's own retail, buys it wholesale for about $90 and sells it to you for $180. That is a classic retail markup. The store roughly doubles the price. So about $90 of your $180, a full half, is pure retail markup. The store uses it to pay rent on expensive mall space, to pay the staff, to eat the pairs that don't sell, and to make its own profit. Look at the size of that slice. The retailer's $90 is bigger than everything Nike does. The design, the marketing, the royalty to Michael Jordan, the profit, all of it combined. The single biggest cut of your Jordan money goes to the place that simply put it on a shelf. So let's lay your $180 out on the table, every cut at once. $11 of materials, $250 to the worker who built it, $250 in factory overhead, $8 in shipping and import duties, $25 to marketing and Michael Jordan, $41 to Nike's design, overhead, and profit, and $90 to the store. Now do the thing nobody does. Add up everything that wasn't the shoe. Shipping, marketing, Nike's overhead, the retailer. About $164 of your $180 went to something other than a shoe. Which means the actual shoe, the physical object, materials and all, was only about $16 of what you paid. Under 9%. And the person who built it with their hands got $250. You spent $180 and 16 of them were a shoe. $16 to make, $180 to buy. That's about an 11 times markup. So is Nike just uniquely greedy? Not really, and here's the tell. Adidas, New Balance, Puma, all of them build their shoes in the very same contract factories in Vietnam and Indonesia for very similar costs, and sell them for very similar premiums. The markup isn't a Nike quirk, it's the price of the brand, and every brand charges it. And remember, the markup is not the profit. Nike keeps about 7 cents of net profit on every revenue dollar. The worker keeps about $1.50 of profit-free wage out of your $180. The retailer,
The marketers, the shippers, the taxman, they all eat first. The shoe is the cheapest, smallest part of buying a shoe. What you're really paying for is everyone standing between the factory and your feet.
So here's the thing to sit with next time you're standing in line for a drop or hovering over the checkout button on a $180 pair. That money is not buying you $16 of shoe and $164 of Nike greed. It's buying $11 of materials, $250 of someone's labor in a factory you'll never see, $8 of freight and tariffs, $25 of marketing designed specifically to make you want it, $41 of Nike's machine, and $90 for the store that handed it to you. The shoe is almost a rounding error. So, would you still buy it, knowing the split? A lot of people will. The shoes really are nice, the feeling really is real, and that's allowed. But now you know what the 180 actually buys, and it was never really the shoe.
So here's your receipt, fully itemized at last. $11 of materials, $2.50 to the hands that built it, $2.50 in factory overhead, $8 to ship it and clear customs, $25 to make you want it, $41 to Nike's machine, and $90 to the store that put it on a shelf. $180, and only 16 of it was ever a shoe. The maker got $250. That's the cut. Now you know who gets yours.